The World Without Star Wars, Part 2. Why, pray tell, am I even imagining a world without Star Wars? Why erase the single most influential myth of the late 20th century? Well, this is why. Because Star Wars, the myth that once reshaped cinema, childhood, and the collective imagination, lost its mythic core long before it was sold to Disney. In fact, by the time of the sale, it was already dead on arrival. Not because of who bought it, but because of what had already been lost. Star Wars was a modern myth, held together by a fragile trinity. George Lucas, the visionary, Gary Kurtz, the mythic challenger, Marcia Lucas, the emotional architect. When Lucas drifted from Kurtz after The Empire Strikes Back, the myth lost its philosophical spine. When he drifted from Marcia, it lost its emotional clarity. And when he isolated himself creatively, the myth lost its stewards entirely. By the late 1980s, the window for a true sequel trilogy had closed. The cast had aged out of their archetypes, the culture had shifted, the mythic transmission line had broken. If Star Wars was ever going to continue with its soul intact, it needed to happen by 1987, with Lucas reconciled to Kurtz and Marcia, moving forward as a unified myth-making force. But that never happened, and so the myth calcified. The Force became a mechanic, not a mystery. The galaxy became content, not cosmology. The story became a brand, not a spiritual architecture. By the time Disney acquired it, Star Wars wasn't a myth anymore. It was an IP vault, a body without a soul. And that is why I imagine a world without Star Wars. Not out of spite, but out of grief. Out of the quiet, aching knowledge that the myth deserved a dignified ending, not decades of necromancy. A world without Star Wars is not a world without myth. It is a world where other myths had room to grow. A world where Trek becomes the intellectual spine of sci-fi. A world where analog futurism matures instead of being eclipsed. A world where the emotional tone of the culture evolves differently. A world where something new, something profound, could rise. The evolution of Trek in this timeline. Instead, Trek evolves like this. Phase 3, mid-1980s. A darker, more political sequel series. Federation fractures, Cold War allegories, serialized storytelling. Starfleet, late 1980s. A grounded academy drama. Young officers, human-scale stakes. Frontier, early 1990s. A gritty exploration series. Less utopian, more analog, more alien than TNG. Trek becomes the intellectual spine of sci-fi, not the mythic spectacle Star Wars forced it to become. The emotional tone of the culture. Because Logan's Run and The $6 Million Man never lose their audience, the culture grows up with dystopian ethics, grounded futurism, tech anxiety, human-scale heroism, analog aesthetics, adult emotional complexity. Instead of mythic spectacle, the culture embraces philosophical ambiguity. Instead of Pixar's pastel therapy cinema, children grow up on Don Bluth, anime, and practical effects. The emotional tone of the culture becomes mature, not sentimental. Today in this alternate timeline. Today would feel profoundly different. Technology would be tactile, not magical. Superheroes would be grounded, not cosmic. Sci-fi would be philosophical, not mythic. Fandom would be calmer, smaller, more intellectual. Cyberpunk would have arrived early, and stayed. And the cultural DNA would come from Logan's Run, The $6 Million Man, Star Trek Phase 2, not Star Wars. The emergence of a new myth. And in this world, a world without Star Wars, without Pixar, without mythic monopolies, something changes. A cultural atmosphere forms, a pressure, a readiness, a sense that the era is waiting for something profound, something next level, something capable of becoming the harbinger of a new age. Not a franchise, not a brand, not nostalgia, but a new myth, born from dusk, born from analog mysticism, born from human-scale cosmicism. In this alternate timeline, the culture is finally open to it, whatever it is. A myth that could rise organically, quietly, inevitably. A myth that would become the shared emotional architecture of a generation. A myth that, in our world, never had the space to emerge. This is the world that could have been. And maybe, the world we can still build.